It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. I had someone recently ask me, where does a team lead fit into the Agile framework? And how do team leads work and what should they be doing? What type of responsibility should they have? What is their daily operations? That kind of thing. And I think the confusion was this person was asking me, what's the difference between a team lead, a tech lead, an engineering lead, a lead software engineer, a principal software engineer? I think you see where I'm going with this, right? This brings me back to one of the steps in my 12-step program. In fact, it brings me back to step number three. Step number three of the Agile Dad 12-step program talks about a clear delineation of roles and responsibilities and an understanding of what goes along with that. So, one of the key tenets is that you don't get hung up on titles. I think too often we have people who just get stuck on a title and they ask, well, what are the difference between these 7 or 8 titles or 6 to 9 titles? And sometimes there's a dramatic difference. Other time there's none at all. It's just the way that it's worded. So let's talk about a team leader. A team lead or a team leader is a person who provides guidance and instruction to the working group or team about a project or a whole portfolio of projects, depending on what level they're at when they take on this position. All of those other names that I mentioned before could all be used as a synonym for team lead. So it's not one of these requirements where you're going to have to go out and open a rec to hire someone as a team lead position, but you have to identify who that person might be because the truth is, in most organizations, this person does exist. So these people play an intricate role in helping the success of the team to deliver potentially shippable products or services. But if you start talking specifically about software engineers, they usually have some additional or different responsibilities. They have no people responsibilities at all, but they're an inspiration to others, and they might have some different sets of responsibilities when it comes to delivery of software, perhaps, right? Oftentimes they'll come in as an architect or a chief architect and things along those lines. So even though the name might differ, they should help contribute to the team in three key areas. They need to make sure they're contributing to architecture and design of software if they're a software architect. They need to lead the development process of the team and mentor their teammates to help them be successful. Usually, when you're in this type of technical career, engineering careers are split up at this position depending on two factors. It's either the type of software company and the focus of that person, if it's going to be technical, and the technical one might continue to work as an architect, a senior architect, a chief architect, maybe even a CTO, right? At least that's their progression path. While someone focusing on managing people will continue as an engineering manager, maybe, or a senior engineering manager, a director of engineering, or VP of engineering. So it is two distinct paths depending on how technical you are. Now, the other thing that's interesting is this could be the same in non technical environments as well. So a team lead in a non technical environment might be a team lead, and then eventually a director, then a VP, then a senior VP. I think you see where I'm going with this. So there's definitely a career path for each one. Now, one of the goals of Agile is to flatten some of these. Now, in large organizations, that becomes very difficult because in order for people to sustain working in a large organization for a long time, oftentimes that means that they have some type of path of progression to help them both emotionally and monetarily get to where they need to be. In some organizations that are smaller, there are none of these positions, and that's totally okay too. There's nothing wrong with not having these positions in your organization. I think that the key here, the big message, the big takeaway is that I don't want people wearing 100 different hats, but I also don't want people confusing the roles and trying to either A, spread it way too thin, or B, pile it on someone who should be doing more or less. So let's talk about some of the responsibilities or skills for a team lead. Right out of the gate, they should have in-depth knowledge of what they're working on. If they're technical, it might be a development or a code stack. If they are not technical, that's in-depth knowledge of the product that they're working with. Like any leadership position, team leads have to have excellent communication skills. That's right at the top of the list, right? They need to have a leadership attitude that they often try to inspire and uplift other team members. And I think the big thing for me, one of the most important ones, is they need to know how to simplify complex things. A lot of times people will come in with just really heavyweight, difficult things, and it becomes a team lead's responsibility to help work with product owners and others to help make it simple. They need to be able to admit mistakes, but at the same time be firm and fair and flexible with their teams. They need to be able to be adaptable and change based on varied work settings. They need to be able to manage targets and expectations of the team and help have discussions. Now, in my world, the secret is here's the secret sauce. I created the technical analyst, and any of these people who fall into this genre, this group of naming convention that we just now talked about, any of those could be technical analysts. So I think that the TA has to focus on helping the product owner understand from a technical perspective where they're going to be. And that could fall into multiple categories. That could fall into helping break things down into right sized tasks that things are easily consumable. It could be reviewing or doing code reviews or pairing or peering with others to make sure people understand exactly where they need to be. It could even fall into some sort of release management slot where they're managing continuous integration, continuous deployment, feature toggling, if you're working on technical things, or release management when we're talking about dates and times and logistics of getting a product to a customer. They need to focus on organizing the work and understanding and prioritizing and helping a product owner eliminate dependencies and understand where any dependencies might lie. And of course, their holistic thing, if they are technical, is to contribute to the architecture and design to help us so that we don't end up with architecture that's loose or infrastructure that's not proper. Now, in addition, I mentioned that they should mentor teammates and uplift others. I've said that a couple of times. I feel like this is the piece that's missing from the job description. Anytime you take on a position that says lead or leader, one of your number one jobs is to help uplift and mentor others to help them achieve their goals. And I think that growth is a key thing to talk about here, and people miss that part of it. So, good mentors always want to give help in a way that improves team members, leaving them feel like they worked their way through and solved the problem. And that is where you need to be. So, whether you're helping solve problems or whether you're helping make things better, it's important for a team lead to understand that their role is not just to manage, but it's more to govern. And it's not to enable, it's to empower. And I think that once you start getting those clarifications, then the team lead position starts making a lot of sense. And the other thing about this is then you'll start to see the deviation between what a team lead does and a scrum master does. You'll start to see some lines of separation. And that's going to make it a whole lot easier for these people to coexist. So I hope that information was useful to you. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, don't forget to reach out to us, learn more at agiledad.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.